Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Nazareth and I'm on a 12-month journey to learn everything I can about wealth and finances. Before I get started, I just want to say that I am not a financial expert. I'm just somebody who's interested in learning about finances and I'm sharing that information. So make sure you do your own research. Alright, so I grew up in Canada and I went to university here, but it wasn't until I graduated and started working in post-secondary education that I realized I had made a ton of mistakes with my finances as a student. So today, talking to current students, I'm seeing them make the same mistakes. So I just want to talk about what those common financial mistakes are, and I want to tell you what I would be doing differently if I was a current student now in 2021. So let's get started. Number one, you're not taking out student loans. And by that, I mean something like OSAP here in Ontario. Now, when I was a student, I was really scared to take out debt and to get into debt. So I was careful with my money. And that's not a bad thing. But now, looking back, I'm realizing that OSAP is probably the best loans that I would ever get. And what I mean by that is that OSAP's interest rates are so low that when I'm comparing them to the loans that I get now, it's just not comparable. But that's not the only thing. The other piece is something called forgiveness for OSAP. And if you don't know, forgiveness is a 6-month period where you're not being charged interest and you don't have to make a payment. Now, that's automatically applied when you first graduate, but if you don't know this, you can actually apply for periods of 6-month forgiveness if you don't have a job or if you're getting paid very little money. And just as a side note, most people who start working out of university aren't getting paid very well. So there's usually periods of times where you could be applying for this forgiveness, not getting charged interest, not accumulating more and more debt, and just actually paying off that minimum. But what I would be doing now is not just paying the minimum or taking advantage of not paying at all. What I would be doing is paying as much money as I can so that my loan is being paid off and I'm not just paying off that additional interest. Does that make sense? Now, this is something I hadn't considered, and I never thought about it. But there's actually another piece to why OSAP or provincial loans can be really important. And that's actually bringing me to point number 2, and it's that you're not applying for bursary support. Now, if you don't know, bursary support is free money that you're given and not expected to pay back, and it's given to you based on if you have financial need. The interesting piece here for how it relates to OSAP or that provincial support you might be applying to is that if you don't apply for OSAP, then you're automatically assumed to not need bursary support and you're ineligible. Now, that's something a lot of us didn't know. So if you're working multiple jobs to put yourself through university and really need extra support, and go to your student finance office and ask them if you can apply to these awards, they're going to tell you no because you didn't apply for OSAP. And what does that mean? It means you're losing and missing out on all of this free money. So if I was a current student, even if I didn't need OSAP because I had a really tight budget, I would still apply just so that I could get my bursary support and take away some of that burden for myself. A lot of people have this idea that there's very little bursary support available, and they're very careful about when to apply for it. I recently did a study, and it was a pretty small survey asking people for their thoughts around bursary support. And what I found that was really interesting is that a lot of people think that if you can get a job, you shouldn't be applying for bursary support, and you should leave that for people who need it. Now, the thing about bursary support is that purpose is to take away the financial burden from students and to give them the opportunity to immerse themselves in the university experience. If you're working 1 or 2 or 3 jobs, you cannot be focused on your university or college career. So that's the purpose of bursary support. There's not this little pool of money. There's actually a lot of money available, not just through the government and through your university or college, but through other foundations out there. So stop thinking that it's this small amount of money that we need to be stingy about. That's a lacking mindset, and that comes from a lot of us not having had a lot of money. So all I would say is that if I was a current student now, I would stop thinking about those things and start applying, because I guarantee you there are people who are less needy than you, who are accessing this money and making a way for themselves forward without having to get all of this debt to go through university. So stop doing that. Okay, next is my third point, and that's thinking that you don't deserve or qualify for something. And that really ties into the bursary support, but it's so much more than that. This can be not applying for internships or scholarships or opportunities that really make a difference long term. And I actually just want to share a story. This is a personal story about somebody who I know who was really excited about an internship opportunity. So she called me and she was telling me how great this internship would be and how many doors it would open and how excited she was about it. But in the same conversation was telling me how much she did not deserve it and that she didn't qualify and that there were other students who were more deserving than she was. So she talked herself out of applying before she did. Now, in this conversation, I think I spent about 30 or 40 minutes trying to convince her to just apply. And the deadline was that day. So, it was a push, but eventually she agreed and she said, okay, she was just going to go for it and see what happened. Now, she not only was offered that position, but she was offered a position in a second city. So she had the opportunity to pick between two international opportunities with this prestigious internship program. And she did. My point here is that there are so many of us that are speaking against ourselves and stopping ourselves from doing what we want to do. And we don't need that. There are already other people out there who are against us. We need to be our own advocates. So start advocating for yourself. And even if you don't feel like you deserve an opportunity, just go for it, because if you don't apply, somebody else is going to get that opportunity. It's similar to bursaries. Somebody is going to get it. So stop making sure that it's not you. Try at least, right? At least try. And that brings me up to my next point, because the story actually didn't stop there. What then happened was she was told that she had a little bit of time to decide which one she wanted to do, and she had to pay for her flight to get there as well as minimal expenses when she was there. Now, this again was a student. She didn't have much money and she couldn't afford it. So she came to me and was trying to talk it out and figure out what she should do. Now, again, I work in post-secondary education, so I've become familiar with how it works. And something I've learned is that usually when there are opportunities, there's also some type of financial backing, because universities and colleges want to make sure that opportunities are equitable. They don't want just wealthy students being able to access this. They want the best students to be able to access their programs. So it didn't make sense to me that there were no finances behind it. But she told me she had already gone to the finance team at her school, and they told her that she just needed to figure this out by herself. So I did a little bit of digging. I went on their website and I found not only bursaries that were available because the deadline hadn't passed, but a very specific bursary that was intended to support students who were given internships abroad and who couldn't afford it. Looking at that, I realized, okay, the deadline of that matches the deadline of when you need to make the decision about if you want to do this internship opportunity abroad or not. So I realized that bursary was likely created just specifically for this course she was in. And that this is my fourth point, and it's stop relying on other people to give you information, because there are kind of two pieces of that. One, some people just don't have it. They don't know. And if you're relying on them, you're going to have that same lacking of information. But the second piece is that, guys, in our community, there are people who just don't want to share that information with us. And if you're Black or if you're a racialized person, you've possibly come across this before, and I say possibly, thinking probably, all through school, from elementary school onto post-secondary school, we see the numbers show us that there are certain communities who are not being given the same information as everyone else and the same opportunities as everyone else. So why do we keep going back to them for this information? Do your own research. And that's what I kind of told her. You should stop relying on other people to tell you what's available to you or not. It's on the website. Look it up. And now we have no excuses because everything is online. So if you want to learn about something, look it up. Now, if I was in university today, what I would be doing is I'd be looking up all of the bursaries and scholarships and awards that are available through my university or college, and I would be planning out a schedule for how I'm going to apply for them throughout the year, because there are different deadlines. But if you do this in the summer and come up with a plan, then you have 8 months of information, and you can, what I would do is actually take this information with me to a meeting I arranged with the finance team and find out what they think the best process is for applying to these awards. Now, something you'll probably hear is that you're not qualified for all of these awards, because that's what people say. But the main question when they say that to you is why? And if they can't give you a concrete answer, if they don't say, well, this is for math students and you're in science, or this is only for female students and you're a male, if they can't give you something concrete, then still apply. Because the answer, well, I don't think this is suitable for you, is not an answer. It doesn't matter what they think, it matters what the people who are selecting the award recipients. And the other thing I want to say is when you're applying to bursaries, think about it like a job, right? If you're applying for an award that's $2,000 and you spend 5 hours doing that, that's getting paid $400 an hour if you get it. How many hours do you need to work to get $2,000? So stop thinking about this as if it's, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and it's not worth it. It is worth it, because you have to work a lot of hours to get this money. So when you're mapping out your schedule of awards for the year, also keep in mind that the first application and second application might be a little bit more time consuming, but you can repurpose this, right? That's the whole point. You repurpose what you've already done and apply for another award and another award and another award. You're going to get something, and that money is going to make a difference. And back to my previous point, do a little bit of digging, because there are a lot of awards that, the name of it means something in certain circles. And because I wasn't in those circles, I didn't know that. I just didn't have that information. But now, if I was back in university, I would be looking up what are the names of some of these awards that mean something. And, something like a Lorenz Scholar, Fulbright Scholarship, like those are meaningful, but it meant nothing to me 10 years ago. Really, it didn't mean very much to me 5 years ago. But now I'm realizing that if you say the name of this, it means something in certain circles. So figure that out, because it can open up a lot of doors, and spend your time accordingly. If there's an award that, it's very prestigious, spend time applying for it. Oh, and the last thing I want to say about my friend who was applying for that internship, she ended up getting financial support, and she was able to go, and it opened up a lot of doors for her. And that kind of brings me to my next point, and that's number 5, and that's the implication of some of these awards and opportunities go well beyond financial. So when you're looking at a bursary or a scholarship or an award and thinking, oh, that's $2,000, well, in reality, it's not just $2,000. It's the name of that award on your resume, and it's, if you use the opportunity right, meeting the right people, deans, alumni, and faculty, and these people have the ability to really open doors for you. So it ends up being internship opportunities, job opportunities. It's a lot more than just money. So when you're applying to these awards, think about it that way. Think about the end game. And no, I don't mean Avengers, I mean the end game. In 10 years, what can this award do for you? Because I guarantee you it can do a lot more than give you that $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. Now, if you're interested in learning how you can use these awards to open doors for yourself, let me know in the comments below. I can put together a video to share some of that information and what I've kind of learned since being a student. Next week, we're going to be talking about bad money habits that are keeping you broke and how you should be using your money. So don't forget to hit subscribe. And while you're at that, don't forget to hit that like button if this video has given you any value at all. I'll see you next week, and until then, check out my other videos.